So what is palatability? The first question is actually the most important one. It's really about pleasure and satisfaction. It's going to use the five senses. So for human as for pet, I would say, sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. But for pets, we are mainly going to focus on taste and smell. When it comes to palatability, it's how much the smell will be satisfactory, especially for the dog, and the taste will be good for both cats and dogs.
Welcome to the Pet Food Science Podcast, powered by Wisenetics, your trusted source for the cutting-edge science and insights driving the global pet food industry forward. I'm your host, Dr. Kate Shoveler. I'm a professor of companion animal nutrition at the University of Guelph in Canada. I have a background in comparative animal nutrition and 2 decades of experience working alongside industry and government partners. I focus on turning rigorous science into real-world applications that improve pet health and advanced pet product innovation. Whether you're a nutritionist, a product developer, a marketer, a veterinarian, or a decision maker in the pet food space, this podcast is your go-to for staying competitive and informed. From emerging research and regulatory shifts to ingredient innovation and sustainability trends, we cover what matters. So let's dive into today's episode and explore how science is changing the future of pet nutrition. On today's podcast, we have Maïlys Le Thiec, a technical services manager for palatant and health and nutrition for Kemin Nutrisurance. With 10 years of experience in the pet food industry, nearly 6 years dedicated to pet food, Maïlys is specialized in palatability solutions. As a food industry engineer, she has spent over 3 years working in palatant development, qualifying a palatant factory, and qualifying coating equipment. This hands-on experience has given her extensive knowledge in the use and application of palatants to enhance pet food appeal. For the past 3 years, she has been developing customized solutions in collaboration with pet food manufacturers, leveraging her understanding of palatant use and production processes to optimize palatability. Today, Maïlys and I are going to talk to you about palatants. Welcome, Maïlys.
Hello. Very happy about the opportunity to be with you.
Thank you. Very excited to talk palatability. Of course, for our listeners, whether dogs and or cats enjoy their food, and I put that in air quotes, is a driver to purchase intent by the pet parent. And so it's a very critical area that we understand. So I thought maybe today, Maïlys, we could start with you talking just about what is palatability and what are some key factors that influence pet food palatability.
So what is palatability? The first question is actually the most important one. It's really about pleasure and satisfaction. It's going to use the five senses. So for human as for pet, I would say, sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. But for pets, we are mainly going to focus on taste and smell. When it comes to palatability, it's how much the smell will be satisfactory, especially for the dog, and the taste will be good for both cats and dogs. So this is, I would say, for the first question on what is palatability: satisfaction, pleasure, and wish to eat again the food. What are the key factors that are influencing palatability? There are a lot of factors, and it's actually very hard to say that if I decide to work on one factor, it will be definitively the best solution. You need to work a little bit in all the factors. So some of them, not in order, but just a list. Ingredient quality, for example, is a key factor. Which ingredient, which protein, which fat, which ingredient are you using? Their freshness is very, very important. After, of course, palatability enhancer will be something that will really help. And actually, without palatability enhancer, we have difficulties to reach very high palatability. Another thing that maybe is a little bit less worked, but still very important is the process, the pet food process. For example, the cooking, the drying, the coating efficiency, all those parameters will have a very huge impact on palatability.
Kemin Nutrisurance is compelled to provide safe and delicious ingredients to improve our pets' food so they can have the best quality of life. Every day, they deliver specialized expertise, innovative products, and unrivaled support through the pet food and rendering value chain. From oxidation control and food safety to palatability and nutrition, all the way through a suite of tailored services that support you from start to finish, we ensure you're getting the most from Kemin ingredients. Kemin is compelled by curiosity to ensure pets around the world are living happy and healthy lives.
Excellent. Well, does that mean then that let's start talking ingredients below the palatant, because we're gonna kind of bring it up and talk about what palatants to consider when you're using different types of ingredients. So you've talked about quality. What in terms of nutrient content do dogs and cats enjoy the most? So if we're looking at our ingredients, we often will talk about them as being largely protein-containing ingredients, largely carbohydrate-containing ingredients, largely fats. So if we're thinking about just changing those, does that alter palatability, first of all?
Yes, definitely. Every one of them will have an impact. If you change your fat, if you change your protein, if you change your carbohydrate, one way or another, it will impact the palatability. I would say in terms of, as I say, quality and quantity. So, and we are going not to focus on the same thing for cats and for dogs. Probably in cats, we will work more on bigger amount of protein, because they are carnivorous, and the protein will be the main focus. And in terms of quality, we see, for example, that hydrolyzed protein are a bit better in terms of palatability, generally speaking. For dog, we are also going to work on those proximate. However, we will work probably on a bit less protein. Even if it's still very important, we can also work a lot on fat amount and quality, and obviously on carbohydrate. But carbohydrate will mainly be for nutritional purpose first, but also in terms of texture, you will modify a lot the texture of the kibbles depending on which carbohydrate are you using and which ingredients. So all of them, let's say, will have their importance, but different way.
Yes, and I really like the overlay that you keep coming back to, which is it's not just quantity, it's also quality. And of course, quality means very different things, talking about all the macro and micronutrients. So I just implore everybody to think very carefully about what quality means when it comes to those. Now, when we take a dive into those ingredients, then let me think of it differently. Are there components in some of the ingredients that we use in the pet food industry that decrease palatability?
Yes, there are. We see, for example, in cat that using some amino acid can be like a bit bitter amino acid can decrease a bit the palatability. Some ingredients obviously are going to push it, and some are going to decrease. For example, yeast or pyrophosphates are going to be very good. After, as I said, the main topic will be quality, really. I would say, for example, if we talk just about fat, you can have very good fat and you can have very bad fat. If the fat is oxidized, if you can see some FFA or this kind of a component that are appearing, this will definitely decrease the palatability. And then you can do whatever you want with the rest of the formula with palatant. It will not compensate the lack of palatability you created by using this kind of raw material or ingredients, let's say.
Yeah, fantastic. And maybe for some full disclosure on that, we're along with you, Kemin Nutrisurance, we're looking at some stability of fats across different types of kibbles, and it's different as well. So thinking about that shelf stability, and I think that a lot of pet owners don't really think about shelf stability, and so I spend actually a lot of time talking to my students about, there's a lot of effort in getting the best quality fat to you. But if you buy a bag and store it for 6 months before you start feeding it, that's a different food than when you bought it, fortunately or unfortunately. So I always talk about quality is also freshness, just like it is for us when we go and buy ingredients at the grocery store. So when we think about those aspects of the ingredients, things that improve palatability and things that decrease palatability, how do you then design a palatant to perform well based on those different ingredient chassis, shall we say?
So to design, we are once again going to work a little bit differently with cats and with dogs. For both of them, let's say smell and taste are very important. Also, you can focus also on colors and so on, but let's say that the main things we are going to work on are the smells and the taste. For the dog, the smell is going to be the first. So you need to be sure that the flavor that you will get out of the palatant will be the one that the dog are seeking for. For that, you are going to work on two processes, the hydrolysis and the Maillard reaction. So the hydrolysis will, let's say, prepare the Maillard reaction, and you already get, let's say, a first step in doing the palatant. But usually when you really want to get a performant palatant, something that will bring all the flavor, you will work on the Maillard. So you will work on the addition of sugar, of amino acid, and you will push more or less the Maillard reaction. And so ultimately, you get some component like sulfur, like ester, or some specific furan that will bring the palatability to the dog palatant. And it's very strong when you check palatant, let's say economic palatant and super premium palatant with a GCMS. I don't know if it's something that, yeah. So with a GCMS, you can really see the apparition of some components in the super premium that you don't have in the premium and that you absolutely don't have in just hydrolyzed protein. So this is what we are going to seek for and how we are developing, let's say, a palatant for dog, especially. For cat, we are going to work a little bit more on the taste. The smell is still very important. You have to understand that in any case, they have a much more developed smell than us. So it's still important. But the taste is going to be really the go-no-go and in terms of palatability. And so we are going to work more on the receptors. So receptors for amino acid. For example, they are going to really like some specific amino acid, more sweet, I would say, like proline, cysteine. They will not like so much the bitter amino acid, so more arginine, for example. So we are going really to seek for the good amino acid. We are also going to work a lot on pyrophosphate, phosphate salt, and yeast, for example, that are two ingredients that are very tasty and they really match the receptors of the cat. So two different way of working, as I say, some different type of ingredient. At the end, we are going to use also the Maillard reaction for cat. We are also going to work on yeast for dog. But let's say the objective will be stronger in one sense or the other, depending on the animal.
Okay, interesting. And maybe just for all the listeners, when Maïlys, when she talked about GCMS, this is a analytical technique that can measure volatile compounds. And so when you're doing something like olfaction, you're looking for volatile compounds that the dog and or cat can pick up that we might not be able to as well. Like some of those might be in very low amounts. And just to remind all the listeners, what we're smelling is not what cats and dogs are smelling. They have a much better sense of smell than we do. Now, I would be remiss to not mention, because you mentioned polyphosphates, and there's also quite a bit of movement within the pet food industry looking at the phosphate content of food. So if there's push to reduce the pyrophosphates in palatants, can you still have a really effective palatant that's low in phosphate content?
So it's actually the big thing in cat palatability, I would say. It's extremely hard for now, and I think I'm not wrong if I'm saying that probably nobody has found yet a solution in palatability without phosphate. It doesn't mean that we cannot decrease the quantity, and I think that's what everybody wants to do, and it's the big target. So now we managed to get 30% less pyrophosphate or phosphate in general than we used to have in some formula. And we are also working on, as I said, for example, yeast, working much more on the Maillard reaction to have to enhance the palatability. However, I would say for now, very high palatability in cat is really hard to reach without those phosphates.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It just really goes to show you that no matter what food you're developing, there's always a cost benefit analysis to the choices that you make. And I spend a lot of time too as a nutritionist, and believe me, I did this a lot more earlier in my career. But you can make the best as a nutritionist, the best food possible. It doesn't mean that a dog or cat or a human for that matter is going to eat it. And it's amazing how important palatability is to the dog or cat owner. It's actually quite related to what they think the quality of their food is. So the palatability of that food is very important for not just getting pets to eat something that's good for them, but it's also important in terms of how the pet owner views the food in general. So it's quite an interesting balancing act. So you've talked about ingredients. You've talked about dog and cat in terms of some different ways of designing those palatants. Now, you mentioned earlier format, and you've mentioned Maillard products as well. So when we look across the formats for pet food, do you use similar palatants whether you are recommending it for a dry food or a wet food? And I have to ask, because I don't know, what about palatants for raw food or lightly cooked food? What do those look like as well?
Yes, no, so ultimately we are seeking for the same type of component, meaning that we are going to seek for some amino acids, some very specific ingredients. But we are not going to use exactly the same palatant when working in dry and when working in wet. Why? Because first, the process is not at all the same. In dry, we are going to coat at the surface of the kibble the palatant, so there will be no more process after. So the palatant has to be reacted already, has to be efficient as such. When it comes to wet, we are going to put it in the premix. It's going to be cooked after. And so this is where, at this moment, that the palatant will actually be created. The palatable component will be created during the retorting process, during the cooking process. So it means that when for the dry, we already use palatants that are processed. In the wet, we are going more to use blend of ingredients that are going to be processed in the formula after. It's going to be very similar way of working, meaning that in both cases, we want to have this Maillard reaction happening. But one will be already done before, one is going to be done after. After, in terms of constraints, we don't have the same also. For example, in wet, we are very focused on the texture of the wet pet food, on the color of the wet pet food. In dry, maybe we are focused a little bit more in the way of application by coating, liquid or powder. So obviously, it's also not going to be the same way of working. We are going to maybe add some ingredients in the palatant for wet pet food just to make sure that we maintain the structure of the food. So it's, let's say, a very different way and very different type of palatant, even if ultimately we want to have, as I said, was good protein, good amino acids, the good yeast and good pyrophosphate, for example. These are common components, but rich differently. For the raw food, it's a bit harder in the sense that it's harder to add something in the raw food. And generally speaking, you have different texture, different type of food. So we are, for example, maybe speaking about freeze-dry, that is low transformation, let's say. The process can be very strong, can be very hard. it's not so easy to add and to not lose the flavor within the process. It's still possible to work on solutions. The other thing also is, as you are working with raw food in general, the palatability can be also already high and good. So it's always also harder to work on improving something that is already good. But yeah, between the process and the quality already of the product, we can work on solutions and on adding some palatant, adding some specific ingredients that are not existing in the raw food. But let's say it's going to be a bit different also in terms of what we are going to add and work on.
Okay, very, very interesting, and really interesting point about raw food, and of course, the listeners can appreciate that that means raw or lightly cooked meats in general, with very low inclusion of vegetables and fruits usually. So, maybe one question I have here until we kind of try to bring everything together is that generally means to me, especially in the case of the cat, that it would be very hard without palatants to have vegan or vegetarian based foods to perform as well as animal protein based foods, or in the case of limited ingredients as an example, or single proteins. Which I have to, as a nutritionist, I have to make the point of should only be used when animals have food allergies and need a restriction in their dietary ingredients, because diversity in your ingredients helps you achieve nutrient balance. But how can you help companies that are developing alternative approaches and format, especially around vegetarian and vegan?
So yes, you tell it well. Actually, for cats as carnivores, it can be very strange to think about having a vegetarian vegan diet. However, it's something that is appearing more and more. And in terms of palatability, it's actually going to work exactly the same way as we do with the meat or animal protein base, let's say. Meaning that we are going to use a protein base, which can be vegetarian, like pea protein, for example. We can extract protein from pea. And we are going to work on hydrolysis. We are going to work on Maillard reaction to add the ingredients that are going to push those reactions. And what is very interesting here is that probably the fact that they are going through same type of process, we really reach same kind of flavor at the end than meat. For example, we have been, again, worked on the GCMS on palatant, on vegetarian non-meat palatant, let's say. And we can see some flavor that are related to roasted beef or to chicken, and without having any animal based. So we can think, oh no, I will not reach palatability, or it's a bit strange, but ultimately it's the process that is bringing a lot of this flavor compound, and the process that is going to push the palatability, let's say. So yes, it's possible to develop palatant also vegan and vegetarian, and to bring flavor, to bring taste. In terms of palatability, I would say that for now, our best performer will still be animal based, but we managed to reach very high performance also with a vegetarian diet, and maybe adding a little bit more palatant to compensate the gap, let's say. So we are working on those solutions, but it's possible, and we saw good performance and good results.
Fantastic. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe in a multiple summary sentences, I think what we have talked about is species difference in palatability, ingredient differences in palatability, format differences in palatability. Do you mind kind of summarizing those for the listener, that you have to, how you want to consider all of them, and when maybe one is more important than the other? That was a big summary request, by the way.
It's not so easy, actually, but very, very good question. And I think many persons are wondering and are still questioning that. I would say one first thing to be clear, if you have oxidized or non-qualitative raw material in your recipe, this will be a no-go in terms of palatability. So I would say thing first, the quality and the freshness of the ingredient is a must. Without that, we don't even talk about the rest and working on palatability. In second step, process, as I say, is very important. So once you well selected your ingredients and having good quality one, you need to make sure that your process is good enough, meaning that you get the good moisture, you get the good gelatinization of the starch, the good texture, and so on. So once again, if you don't reach that, if you don't have a good density, let's say texture that is good enough, it's going to be very hard after to catch up on palatability. And then when you get that done, so ingredient process, you go for palatability to really reach the max and to really increase up to the performance that you are seeking for. So maybe in this order, I would say, like more from beginning to the end of the process, I would say.
Yeah, I really like that you have to think about first, start with your base and what's going to go into it and then evolve it from there. Really, really nice summary. So if our listeners would like to get in touch with the palatability folks at Kemin Nutrisurance, how do they find you and who do they contact?
So first, they can feel free to contact me. I'm in LinkedIn, no problem. So I will be very happy to answer to any question I can. Out of that, we have a website. I can maybe post the link after on the podcast, where they can have a contact form for every region. So EMEA, USA, APAC, and all the regions in the world. We will answer very quickly to your request, or we will send it to the person that will be able to answer the best way. And you can follow us on LinkedIn. And also, if you want some very interesting insight and to follow, we have a blog where you can find some research that we have done and information that can be on palatability, but also on antioxidant, food preservation, and so on. So all the last update and research that we are publishing are on the blog. So I will be able to share those links after on the podcast.
Excellent. Thank you. And for the listeners, and just to get a plug in here, it is critically important that companies do and publish research along with third-party people such as academia. So I applaud Kemin for being involved in that research and making it publicly available. It speaks to your investment in total into the pet food industry. So thank you for that.
It's time for our famous three.
Before I let you go, I have a couple of questions just to get to know your thought process a little bit more. And for the listeners, I did warn Maïlys of my first question because it's something that intrigues me a lot. And so my first question to Maïlys is, what do you think there is in feces that makes dogs want to eat it so much?
So as I also tell you before, it's a very tricky question, and it really takes me by surprise. But my first idea when you asked me that was probably like cats and dogs are very smart animals, and they are going to eat what is going to bring nutrition to them. And so I think maybe that in those phases, there is still nutritional things that are going to bring them protein, amino acids, some lipids, fat, for example. And they can probably detect that. And they are so enthusiastic, or at least they actually like to eat the feces. That would be my first idea.
Yes, and I was telling Maïlys that if you grow up on a farm, you quickly realize that dogs really enjoy. I think that it's horse feces that's top of the list, but of course I'm extremely biased because that's what I've seen dogs eat the most of. But they eat all kinds of feces. Okay, so second question: is there a nutrient that you recommend that also acts as a palatant?
I would say some amino acid, for example, can work well in cats. There is also some good blend of vitamin and minerals like vitamin A that can also work well for both cats and dogs and can be added, and will probably boost a little bit the palatability if I think that could be some good ingredients to be added in addition of the rest.
Interesting. I didn't know that about vitamin A. So fascinating. And then last but not least, but very divergent, your favorite dog breed, because I know that you're a dog person.
So I'm a dog person. I'm a dog and cat person because I have 2 cats. But if I had a dog, it would be a Shetland Shepherd, which is a Scottish breed, and it's I don't know if you know Lassie.
Ah, yes, of course. Who doesn't know Lassie? Well, at least my generation would.
The Shetland Shepherd is the little version of Lassie, so it's reached the knees, and it's a very, very nice and gentle dog, very easygoing, and really like a little puppy, a little little doll, really nice. So that would be my dream dog.
Well, it sounds like that you should acquire said dream dog because everybody deserves their dream dog.
Yeah, maybe one day. Maybe my parents already have it, so I can cuddle the dog of my parents.
Ooh, that's the best kind, when you can get your fill, but you don't have full responsibility. That's a very good one too.
Exactly.
So with that, thank you so much, Maïlys, for joining us today.
Thank you for welcoming me.
Well, that concludes another episode of the Pet Food Science Podcast, presented by Wisenetics. Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to stay updated on future episodes. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, please leave us a review because your feedback is invaluable to us. Until next time, this is Kate Shovler signing off from the Pet Food Science Podcast.